And we are live with another episode of CAV HQ Live. Hi, James.
Yeah, hello, hello, hello.
How are you tonight?
I am tired, but it's a good tired. It's
It's
tired because I've been working hard.
well, that's I'm the same way. I am a good tired. So, so anyway, welcome everyone to the show. As we mindlessly wander through the universe of CAV, trying to share little tidbits and nuggets of knowledge. So enjoy the ride. We are 59 minutes till the end, so we will try to keep you entertained.
The way you described it, it makes me sound like you can do this for 59 more minutes. You got this. It's
It's
it's terrible, but you can do it. It's only 59
it's
more
only
minutes.
59 minutes. You only have to fight through it. Um, we've been working on other than real work. What? Because what did you work on Monday night?
So I tried to do a little bit of oil painting on one of the Reaper chassis that I bought a few weeks ago, and it was not successful to the point where I'm gonna definitely strip that oil paint off and reset my primer and my base coat and go in and just stick with the airbrush. I've had some success with the oil paints, but I just not definitely not Monday night. Some of the colors I find really hard to work with.
I could see that. I oil painted when I was younger, as far as actual painting. But and I didn't enjoy oil paints, so I can.
Yeah.
That's the reason I have no desire to try to put them on miniatures because I think back, I remember painting with those and painting model kits, with the older enamels and stuff like that, and
Hmm.
which are basically their oil based paints, and I hated them. So
Well,
I'm much more of a acrylic person.
it it really all started out with Ross. I was looking through my Facebook Messenger posts from Ross, and I was looking at some pictures he had shared with me, and I love Ross's style. I mean, I know I go on and on. I'm a very effusive person, but I just really like the way Ross paints. It looks effective. It looks simple. When you look at it really close, it looks a little rough. It's not smoothly blended like I know he can do,
Right,
but it just it works together. I think the roughness of it actually appeals to me.
right.
And I say roughness, that's no insult meant towards Ross. He's hats off to you as a painter for
Now,
sure.
is this an oil painting or is this his watercolors?
This is acrylic. This is just a regular
Okay.
mech model that he's working
Oh,
on.
you're
Or
talking about
it's
actual
it's not
miniatures. I thought you
an
might be
actual
talking
miniature
about his.
painting.
He paints a lot of birds and things like that, but
Yeah.
everything I've ever seen him paint was all watercolors. So,
So just to take a quick left turn into my personal little worship of Ross. I mean, he will sometimes send me his pictures of his actual artwork beyond miniature painting. He does wood burning, and the wood burning looks like a sepia photograph.
right,
He sent me a picture once of a painting he had done, and when I first glanced at it, I thought, "What you took a photo?" I thought it was a photograph,
right.
and then I looked at it a little closer, and I could see the brushstrokes, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is incredible." So Ross, so Ross is an art teacher, and from I feel like his students are in good hands. Ross is a seriously talented person.
I've tried to talk him into painting a picture for Cav, but
Hmm.
I don't seem to have been able to cross that river yet.
It may be that's not in his wheelhouse or
Right,
whatever the right word is. So my daughters are all really, really good at drawing. I mean, like amazingly good at drawing, but they have their styles. And I've asked a couple of them to draw me, a mech at different times, and they have, but it's just not their strong point. It's not what they're good at, and you compare it to what they really like to do, and you could just see the difference there. Um, so I don't know. Maybe it's just not his strength. He does a lot of kind of Western themed things, as I
right.
recall, nature and
Lots of
westerns.
nature. Yeah, lots of nature.
Yeah.
So,
Hats off to you, Ross. You're amazing.
I don't know if I'd go that far. He's a good guy.
Well,
Amazing. I don't know. I don't know. No,
I think he's
just
amazing.
he's.
Um,
I'm just afraid that'll
he's
go to his head. You make it even worse, make him worse than he can be. So
I mean, as long as he can still fit out the door with his head,
I
I
don't.
guess
Yeah,
we'll see.
he turns sideways.
He doesn't listen to the show anyway. Why would he
He
listen to a show
doesn't. That's
like
the
that?
reason. That's if you're not here, we get to talk about you. It's the rule. If you're
Absolutely.
not here, we can get to talk about you and say anything we want. It's all free. It's all good to go.
Absolutely. That's why Tiger Rich shows up all the time. That way we can't talk about him.
Well, he's the one guy I will make the exception for. So,
Mm,
uh, me, let's see. I got my drop ship primered,
okay.
and so it's all black now. That's as far as I've got. So now that I've actually got the build guide done,
Hmm.
and so I could start painting on it now because I didn't need it for any more pictures before I did it. So that's a project that I would like to get done. Um, Been working on some new MDF projects for the future,
Ooh.
and
Ooh.
but I've really been trying to use creative time here last week and this week where I'm getting the initiative deck pushed through. Been trying to get some more stuff finished up on the JOR. Try to get more of the painted minis in and keep beating that drum. Um, Talk to Herb a little bit about some things where we're at on the campaign guide, and so
Mhm.
I kit bashed a on him so you can release the official model now. No, you're probably okay for a while. I don't think that one's top on the list right now.
It was only that simple.
Yes. Well, and I mean, hopefully we'll get to that point where we can.
Mhm.
So just got to get
I,
everything on board. Like I said, right now, hell, we've got. They were, I think, last night we were talking about, or last time, or whatever. Just the list of everything that's ready to go to mold. That we've got sitting
yeah.
here on the shelf, masters ready to go. It's just a matter of getting the molds and getting into production. So we're working through that learning curve. So hopefully we'll be there pretty quick.
John, I and probably some of the people that are here have money we're ready to give to you
I
for the
know.
right kind of
I
models.
I
Come on,
know.
John.
I know.
Make with the goods.
Well, I got you a drop ship. I mean,
We appreciate it.
that ought to count for something.
It's a new month, John. That came out. That's last
It's a
month.
new week.
Last month. I've taken a breath since the last release. Let's go.
Yes, yes. So, and well, we've actually got them on the shelf now. So if you haven't ordered
Mhm.
yours, order one. Order them now that I have
I,
them.
I've been pushing them. Everybody I've been showing them off to the people that have signed up for the slow grow league.
We
So,
we actually got all of our Canadian people sort of taken care of. We've got everything shipped
ooh,
up there to our distributor. We're waiting for him to get everything back to get everything back across the border.
mhm,
I shipped out. I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but he posts on Facebook and everything quite a bit.
mhm,
But he lives in Malaysia, and I'm
mhm.
relatively sure that he's backed the Kickstarters. Amazingly, you would be surprised how much stuff that we send to Malaysia and things like that in a Kickstarter. You wouldn't think so. I've got a guy in Brazil that every Kickstarter loads up. Netherlands, we've got a guy over in the Netherlands. It's always big. But so anyway, he contacted me about he wanted a drop ship. He wanted the swag bag and some of the new figures and stuff. And we don't ship overseas like that. So I made an exception for him, and we got everything put together and got it sent his way. And so he should be. I'm actually surprised. I checked on the tracking, and I sent it DHL because the kiss of death, sending things to Malaysia and everything, is to go through the post office.
Okay.
it once our post office turns it over to their post office, they don't work like our post office does. It's and that's true for sending it. If you send something to England or the European Union or something like that, generally the post office is the cheapest way to go, but it can run into problems because of the way, because everybody wants a piece of the pie. So between taxes and VAT and everything like that, it can really get into a mess. So if you are able to ship UPS, FedEx, DHL, or whatever like that, it's just a much smoother experience. Sometimes it costs a little bit more, but they're the in between, so they're right there with the customs people as it comes through and everything, because they are going to control that, because it's going to be them that's going to bring it to you and put it in your hand, or the person that's receiving it. And it's just a much smoother experience. But anyway, so we got it mailed out Monday, and I checked, and it's already sitting in Malaysia.
Wow.
So yeah, so hopefully he'll be getting his stuff here in the next day or two.
That is amazing. You can get something there that quick.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So, and that's the other side of it. I mean, obviously, when you pay for them to ship it, they get it over there a lot quicker. It doesn't have to go across on a boat or something. I have a patron who sends things DHL to Libya on the regular.
I have a little bit of a confession to make.
Uh-oh.
I was looking at some posts on Discord this week in the CAV Discord, and I saw where somebody had posted up some of their rock, and they were painted red. They looked very good, and there may have been a con in there that when I looked at it, I was like, that looks okay. I'm not sure I really just said those words, but I may have actually seen a con paint job that I liked.
Yeah, little Mr. Ed 209.
Yeah, a little bit.
Some stuff I order from China, it comes DHL, but DHL. Well, all of them actually do. It just depends on where you live and stuff like that. DHL, UPS, FedEx, they call it Smart Post, and they do that with a lot of the postal. Is they use the post office to deliver it. So, you know what amazed me, talking about how, thinking about different things in the world and everything like that. And I can't remember, maybe it was Black Ops 1 or 2, or maybe it was I forget, it's one of the first person shooter games that I've played on Xbox back in the past. It's been a while. But it had, when you logged in, it had a picture of the world. And everywhere there was a dot was where somebody was logged in playing the game from.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
And it was amazing to see where some of the dots would be. I mean, out in the middle of the absolute boonies. And it'd be just one or two, and you don't know, is it military? Is it somebody in that area or whatever? But I was always amazed by where you saw some of the dots from people that were playing. So,
Always been, people can spoof their locations, so you never know.
Well, that's true, but I mean, why spoof your location like that? For that.
Well,
so,
I mean, I don't know the particulars of it, but I can imagine there are. I think I've heard that in Germany, certain kinds of video game themes are not allowed.
Right.
So if you were in Germany and you wanted to play a game, you might want to pretend like you were in some other place. For instance.
Well, and I could see that, but I'm just and just from the sake of, all the different, how much gaming has become such a worldwide thing, because you would see there would be just as many lights of people playing in Russia that that would be, and of course you'd watch the United States, and the East Coast and the West Coast are just like this solid lines,
Yeah.
and here's all of us speckles out here in Kansas. So that was always funny. It's just interesting to see all that, how gaming transcends borders, I guess, is always amazed me. with you oughta, it's been so long, but you can go find a list of the languages that like Dungeons and Dragons has been translated into. I mean,
Translated
it's
to, yeah.
huge and crazy. I mean, like Swahili and shit like that. I mean, like, whoa. So, it's cool that stuff happens and crosses over. And the the German BattleTech guys absolutely blow my mind. I have no idea what they're typing and talking about, but those guys, they live the life, man. They are hardcore BattleTech guys over in Germany. So it's fun to see all the things that they do and stuff like that. So
When I was back in the 80s, when I was deployed to Europe, back when I was in the army, I wandered into I don't even remember the name of the store, some German department store, and they had a glass case with the D&D books in them, the old hardcover second edition sort of things, or whatever edition they were on back then. I'm not sure, but I was amazed to hear in this foreign country, and this is back in the mid 80s when like the internet wasn't around, and so the mixture of cultures was much smaller, and here was D&D ready to be bought in the middle of Hamlin, Germany, the Pied Piper town.
yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool. I mean, it's always stuff that's fun. Back especially when I was still working at Reaper, and we would do Gen Con and Origins like that. I mean, I made so many friendships with people from Germany and Australia and England, and France and Spain. People that were over there for different things or coming to the shows, and either as just to come over there and hang out, or actually be there, especially writers, things like that. And that was always a good time of the year for everybody to get grouped back up and be able to catch up and everything like that. So pretty cool stuff for sure. Let's see. I remember when I played Eve, there was one system. Man, I could never get into Eve. I had a couple of my buddies that swore by it, thought that was the greatest game ever, and so I tried it out, and I just couldn't do it. Just wasn't my cup of tea. But they have obviously some big things going on. You see stories all the time about some of their battles, and that I guess money in Eve can transfer into real money, and there's some kind of a transfer rate there, so people can lose hundreds of thousands of dollars.
None for me, thank you.
Yeah, Eve was fun for about 2 weeks, and it was like a second job. I don't even know that I made it 2 weeks. I might have made it 2 or 3 days. So, but I don't know. It's hard for me to get into a game. Over the last 10 years, I can only think of 3 or 4 games that I actually like to play. The Titanfall series, the Fallout games, Destiny. That's been about it. So
I got that Titanfall 2 disc, but I haven't had a chance to give it a shot yet, so I'm looking forward to playing that. Um, I have I've started playing Minecraft again
yeah,
recently. I've only ever dabbled in it before, but I don't know, just something to kind of kill the last hour of the day, something I can sit down and have a little fun with, and before I go to bed, something fun like that.
yeah, yeah. My youngest boy is big into Minecraft. I've got in there
Hmm.
with him, and we've just tried to build. I think we built like a
Hmm.
big pirate ship one time and just stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
it can be a lot of fun.
yeah, had a lot of fun figuring out how to make cannons actually work and shoot things. So
So the only online game I ever tried halfway hard at, I was already a significantly old man by the time I tried it, so my reflexes were not good enough. But I played MechWarrior Online for several years and had a good time with that. It was a solid little game. Still running, by the way.
yeah, I played BattleTech. Their first on the Genie network
Hmm.
back in the day that used
Oh wow.
yeah, that used the original MechWarrior game for the combat system. It was a lot of fun. I mean, it was obviously graphic wise and everything was pretty rough, but at the time you didn't know any better. So I think probably the biggest hardcore game I ever was Star Wars Galaxies. We got into that pretty big and hard, and had one of the larger guilds on one of the bigger servers. And
So that's an MMO. Or
yes,
something?
yeah, that was their version of I guess Warcraft, I guess, but in the Star Wars universe. And when it was, I mean, just the things that they tried to do and stuff like that, I'd never seen in a game, and the way that it was set up. And unfortunately, then they started tweaking things to try to, because this person didn't like it this way, or, because there was PvP and everything like that. So they would change this or try to do this and try to be more like that. And eventually they finally killed it off after, I don't know, we were good and solid on it for 3 or 4 years. So, but it was quite the game. And then they just finally tweaked it so much that we couldn't stand to play it anymore, because we were big into the player versus player combat. So that part of it was, but just anything you could think of that you wanted to do, you could do in the game. It was just amazing. And it was really funny to watch the people that role played in it. So you would walk into a cantina, and they're all in there in their characters, but they're all talking to each other in character, and they're doing their own thing within the boundaries of the game. But it was cool. We had a lot of fun with it.
City of Heroes was another thing that we played back when it was officially alive, and now that it's sort of kind of alive again, we've been playing that a fair amount on the side. My my middle daughter and I, Piper, she and I love it a lot. We just hit level 50 with our villains here last month, so that's the first time we had ever made it to 50 on the villain side.
Lords of the Ring online, we were pretty hardcore on that. We played that for a long time, and I actually, when they came out, they offered you a lifetime subscription.
I remember that.
And so I bought one for me and my wife, so we still have 2 of them. So we can, when they converted it over to a free game, you get stuff. So, every 6 months, 7 months or something, I'll log in to look at something or whatever, because I'm just, some of the stuff that they built, just to be able to go look at and stuff in there is really cool. And, I look at all the gold coins and everything that we have accumulated, because we still have lifetime accounts. So, like, whoa. So, anyway, back to CAV, because this is a show about CAV. You were asking me before the show what I talked about last night, and I mentioned earlier, I'm hardcore into finishing up the new initiative deck. So,
all right.
I think I've kind of showed you a couple of the cards, kind of the layout on them. So right now I'm trying to get all the artwork finished up for them, because there's about 60 different cards. So lots of art to process and get ready, and then get in and get finished for the tactical cards and the event cards and stuff like that. But I'm really, really hoping to probably the first of next week have it off to the printer. So
really?
Yeah.
Wow, that quick.
So we should have them back pretty quick. Yeah.
Did you have anything to share with the audience?
Well, we talked last night a little bit of how the system would work, and
pictures.
No pictures. No, I'm not good. I'm not putting myself into that deal yet till I know 100% sure that's what everything's going to be. So, and once we send it off to the printer, I'll be more comfortable sharing some of that stuff, because I'm still tweaking the text and stuff like that. So, but I'm really excited about it. I think that it will make a much better experience for people when they're playing. Well, yeah, and that's one of the good things. We'll add more cards to this deck as we go along. There'll be things that we can do with it, down the road, a new idea, a new way, or something like that. So, it'd be stuff that we can continuously keep adding to the deck and make it much more of important to the game. And I think that it will add a much more dynamic element to the game. It's more than just flipping a card anymore, because there's at any point a specific card could come up that could, you may or may not need at that time. That maybe, a rally card or something like that lets you clear all your currently suppressed guys, things like that. So it'll be cool. It'll be neat.
So then the next step on that path is CAV dice? Question mark?
I don't know. Dice is such a, I don't know. I don't know that I want to do any CAV dice. We might. I don't know. We have access to dice molds and stuff now that we could, if we wanted to, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I mean, in the past, you gave away some metal coins that had the dictator cast into them.
Yeah, the challenge coins.
Yeah, I mean, now that you have the ability to do your own casting in house, I mean, I would love to see, back when conventions become a thing, like convention specific coin that, I mean, they would necessarily probably be collectible just because, like,
yeah, no, and that's more.
I
I mean, I've pretty much blown off the convention season for this year again. I just don't see it any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Turn it into anything that's going to be on, and I think that I think I discussed last night with everybody a little bit. I'm kind of our plans for ReaperCon have kind of changed a little bit. I don't know that I'm relatively at this point 99% sure we won't be attending as a vendor. I don't know yet if I'm still going to come and will be a display games or whatever. I think that the current format that they're setting things up is going to make it kind of rough. If you're not part of that Reaper faithful, I think it's going to be so much more hardcore with the painters and everything like that. And I don't know that that's be the best place for us at that time. So, but maybe figure something out or whatever. And that frees me up for a couple other conventions that I'm talking to right now. But again, I don't know because they're doing the same thing. They're still planning on restricting this and not doing this and not setting that up. And it makes it hard to, I mean, I know everybody's ready to hit the ground running, but I think that you're shooting yourself in the foot. I know Little Wars went ahead with their show, but they limited themselves to 300 people, and I just don't see how. I guess maybe the hotel made them the greatest deal ever, but I just don't see how you can go into a hotel and set that kind of show up with that kind of space and limit yourself to 300 people. I just don't see how it works.
So I think I saw on Facebook where Warlord is going to go ahead with their Oklahoma City Con, whatever it's called, Twisted Lords.
Twisted Lords.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a little bit of, I think I got an email back, I don't know, it's been a while since I've got anything from them. So, but again, I don't know what they're planning format wise and everything is. They were okay shows. So
I like Bolt Action and Conflict 47. If there was a community for that locally, I could easily be swayed into playing some of that stuff. Yeah. And it's close enough. I might just run down there for like a Saturday or a couple of days and just go in and hang out.
I think it's better as a player or something like that, just from the standpoint of what they do or whatever. it's kind of a strange show for the vendors, with the way it's set up and everything. So
New Way Designs, welcome in. I haven't seen you in a minute.
yes,
Glad you're
yeah,
back.
welcome. Well, and that NashCon is one of the ones that is on that list, Tiger, but they still haven't committed to what they're going to do at the show. And unless they are going to open it up and have it as a regular show, it's just not going to work for us. Well, and yeah, well, and a lot of your shows are, a lot of the shows are historical type shows and everything like that. So they're good to go to every once in a while. They're not the greatest shows to hit on a regular basis because you're hitting the same people over and over and over. And the new people that you're looking for to come, they don't really advertise or get that word out to. It's very word of mouth. So it's just, yeah, I mean, it's tough for smaller companies to find the perfect convention, because even the big ones, with the access that you have there to people and stuff like that anymore, you just get lost in the shuffle. There's just so much other stuff that's going on and everything like that if you can't come in there like a Wizards of the Coast or something like that, you get lost in the shuffle, and it's just, again, it's rough. So we did Twisted Lord's show in 2019. I think that's the last show that we went to, that we went down there to it. It was a good show. I mean, we had sales were good. We had a few games that we put in, so it was. We may go. I know that we did SoonerCon too, and I won't go to SoonerCon again. That was not in any way, shape, or form. It was they're just now kind of embracing games. So, and I don't know that they know what they want to do yet with them. So, but I've just pretty much decided that 2022. I'm just put it off till then, because there's just not going to be any kind of a real convention season this year.
What does the ideal CAV convention look like, John? What characteristics does it have?
Well, we want it to be miniatures orientated.
Mm-hmm.
So an anime show or more of a role playing show or something like that doesn't work as well. We have a small show over here in Wichita, Tsunami Con.
Mm-hmm. It's just recent.
I saw you put that link up for them the other day or whatever. I checked them out a couple of years ago, but again, they're role playing orientated, not a big miniatures crowd, so it's kind of on there. So I mean, our perfect show is like Adepticon. That's a really good show. It's a mid-tier show, with a very strong non-historical, even though they have a lot of historicals. That it's a strong show for things like that. So those are the kind of shows that we look for, would be our best ones. So Kubla Khan out in Colorado is a good one. There's a Las Vegas show. There's a couple out in California and stuff like that. So, we're looking at shows that are much more wider game orientated, that just don't put such an emphasis on the card games or the role-playing games or their anime or stuff like that. So, and those are hard to find. Because generally the people that put these shows on, they put the show on because they do something that they like. So they're either role players or they're cosplayers or something like that, and then everything else just kind of gets. Well, we need more people to show up so that
Mm-hmm.
so that we can do what we want to do, and so some of those things kind of get plugged on, and so we'll see. The Las and I've heard that with Las Vegas Open, the only problem with them is I think that they have embraced workshop too strong. I think they've kind of workshop has kind of come back into the audience, and that's kind of they're kind of pushing Adepticon back that way, and I think the from what I've seen, the Las Vegas Open. Gamma, I go to Gamma all the time. I haven't gone the last couple of years because of with COVID and everything like that. The problem with Gamma is that it's basically the same stores every year. You have a hardcore 300 or 400 stores that come to the show, and so after, it's really better for what I have found is for me to kind of skip a year, go to Gamma one year and then skip a year and come back in the next year, and you kind of find some new stores that have come into the deal. So I wish I had the time. I used to do the convention in Dallas. We used to have the Dallas Game Expo, and we had that for years that we ran down there. And but it's a lot of work. It's a pounding to the deal, and I every once in a while talk myself into talking myself into putting a show together here in Wichita area. And then I think back, and I'm like, oh crap, all the work that I need to do to make it work. So I talk myself back out of it.
So, do you find that there are other companies that you fit in well with? I mean, so to me, like the people that are going to be interested in CAV are probably interested in BattleTech.
Right.
They're probably interested in some of the armor games.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. Just the people who might take a look at CAV are probably already playing some of the other mainline games. Maybe GW, maybe some of Privateer Press's new offering, Warcaster, maybe those kind of science fiction-y games, stuff like that.
Yeah, well, and that's really what I want to. But and again, and this is just my observation. So things will be different as you go like that. It's very hard to demo games at conventions anymore because this is kind of anti what you would think it would be as a game convention. But they're not big on demos as far as if I want to come in and get a table for the weekend and run demo games or whatever. They don't really want that. They want somebody to sit down at that table and play a game so that they can sell a $2 ticket to that game, okay, and get people to play. And generally, your demo game people don't want to do that. They're not there to buy a ticket because if they don't like the game, then they don't want to go. So what the conventions have done to offset this and make more is they want you to do your demos in your booth, okay. So now all of a sudden I've got to double the size of my booth in order to have room for demo games and still be able to do sales and whatnot. And that can be difficult and hard to do. So it's been very hard over the last. That's reading. If you'll notice, at a lot of the shows that we go to, we do the paint and takes because the paint and takes kind of let us get our foot. They're big on paint and takes. So if we'll set up a paint and take for the whole weekend, oh yeah, you can have a couple of tables for demos, okay? That really has happened a lot with a lot of the shows. We ran into that with Origins the last time we went to Origins. For if you as a game master sign up for Origins to run a game, they assign you a table, they sell tickets to that game and go. If at any point, way, shape, or form that a manufacturer is involved in that, okay, then it immediately turns into, even though you're doing the very same thing as what the game master is going to do, you're have somebody come and game master a game or whatever, but because your company is involved in it, now they want you to buy that table, okay? So they want $500 a table for you to have that table. So, the table that they're given to a game master for free, so that they can sell eight $2 tickets, they won't do that for you. So you have to be tricky. You have to find somebody to sign up, and and whatever you do, don't let you're sponsoring it or any prizes or anything like that, because every time you turn around, they want 500 for this, they want 500 for that. And that's the reason why Reaper stopped going to Gen Con. I mean, it literally, we're talking high 5 figures worth of sales, and you can't break even because of all the money that they're nickel and diming you everywhere you go. So that's where it is. And I love conventions for the sake of hanging out and seeing people and stuff like that. I mean, I miss that. I mean, for years, me and a couple of buddies used to go to Gen Con when it was still in Milwaukee. I mean, that was, I think back of gaming memories, and our times at Gen Con in Milwaukee are some of the best times I ever had. And we did it hard. I mean, we got there Wednesday night and maybe got a couple hours of sleep every night, I mean, it was hardcore, the whole show. So you'd sleep when you're dead. Yeah, well, right. And I am the same. I'm the same way. I'm not, and that's the reason I'm much more into, I love going to a convention and playing a scenario game. I don't want, I go to reading this descriptions because a lot of these games are, bring 500 points and all that stuff. No, I want to be able, I want to come in. I don't care what game it is I'm playing, whether I'm learning it or whatever. I want to sit down at that table. You hand me the stuff and we play the game, because you should have designed this 4-hour block around what you're able to do. So if you spend most of that time trying to argue with people if they brought this or do this or whatever like that, it just bogs it down, and you're not there. And that was always the good thing with BattleTech, that you could go to Gen Con, you could go to Origins. So many of those games, the guys were very passionate about those games. And you could just sit down. They had everything ready to go like that. If you knew how to play, voila, you go. And those are the people that I'm really looking for CAV. Is I'm trying to find those people that want to go to a convention, that want to set up a game and have everything ready to go there. Hugh and his friends did an outstanding job at NashCon back in 2019. They had themed games for every time they were going to run games. They brought in everything. They had all the figures. They had all that stuff. I just sat back and was amazed during the whole deal.
John, I remember the first time I ever met you at the ReaperCon. I forget what year it was, probably 2017, back when they were in the old strip mall.
Right.
And you had that gigantic swath of playable terrain set up in front of your booth or at your booth or however that worked. I can't remember the exact details, but you had 3 or 4 tables.
30 foot. It was a 30-foot game board.
It was a lot. It was eye catching. Yeah. And I got that demo game from Colonel Kame, and got to visit with you and ask some questions and play roll some dice on top of that terrain. It was just amazing. So I mean, it's a very visual thing, and I think at a convention doing what Tiger Wraith was doing what you were
Right.
doing, it's definitely the way to go. You want something that just, I mean, from across the room makes somebody go, "What is that?
Right.
And how do I get involved?"
Well, see, and that's what got me in trouble is that convention that we set all it up because I didn't have a booth because you everything was being sold through the Reaper booth. So if you, all the CAV stuff, you just went back to the Reaper booth and got all that. So I didn't have to mess with the sales and everything like on the deal. So I was there for 4 days to play games, and run games and do things. And yeah, I wish I could get back to that. I would very much like to do that. 'Cause I just can't do both. I've tried to do both. I tried that one year, the first year we went to NashCon. I tried to do both, and it just didn't work. So and it's funny about Cthulhu talking about when they come into the first time I met him and his brother was at Twisted Lords convention, actually, when we were at that. And those guys came through the door and I thought was going to tackle me. They ran across that room to our booth and was just so excited, and it was great. We ran them through some games, we talked. That was quite memorable with you guys. I really thought you were going to tackle me. Like, get out of the way. So, and that's the reason that, talking about ReaperCon, depending on how they end up settling and doing things and everything like that, I may just bring stuff down there for us to play, just so we can have some games and hang out. So rather than dick with the booth and everything too. So, and not my boys are not nearly as involved as they used to be. When we went to Gen Con and Origins and stuff like that, they were there to help with the booth and everything. So that kind of freed me up for doing things too. So, but as we go along, as people play more and get used to the game and stuff like that, and hopefully we get more of the word out there that it'll work better. So. Well, and I wish you the best of luck. I mean, we have done everything in the world, and obviously with what I'm kind of seeing what you do and what you're talking about, it's probably going to be a much better crowd for you. The main worries that I have about it from the CAV side of it and everything this year is the way that they're limiting people, and I couldn't get a firm answer one way or the other as to how that is that going to be a hard limit. So once they have 1,000 people in, and are you going to still let other people come into the vendor room? Are you going to do, and it was just too much, too wishy-washy right now with what they're going to do, because they don't know what they're going to do, is my feeling. And with the fact that you're going to limit the show, that hardcore painting crew, they're the Reaper, I don't know, hanger-ons, I don't know what you want to call them. The Reaper faithful is really going to suck all that up right at the beginning. And I think that and those are the same people that are there every year. And you're not going to have exposure to new people. So was my thought process on it. Why I decided to bow out this year.
I know James Wapple is historically a regular feature at ReaperCon.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's not going to be there.
Yeah.
He's not. I think the first place he might go, he said on his stream, was Adepticon next year.
Yeah, it definitely messed everything up. So, but there's some other shows that we've looked at trying to do. CincyCon is one that a lot of people have asked me to check out and come to. I was trying to think who are some of the other. I've got a list somewhere of 5 or 6 of them of some shows that we're going to try to look into and get into a little earlier.
Well, John, if you decide to go to the Las Vegas Open and you need some help, I will come out. I'll make the sacrifice to come out to Las Vegas and help you out.
Well, I am still debating about because I'd like to do Adepticon next year. I would
Mm-hmm.
like to go back and do that show.
Mm-hmm.
I'm over a little bit worried about it's it's hard to get table space for things there,
Mm-hmm.
especially now that they are back into the Warhammer crowd so hard. As far as they've jumped back in bed with Games Workshop, and it just you live by the sword and die by the sword. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, no, CincyCon is one that everybody's told me to check out. So I'm good. I'm good about 10 hours. That's my circle. So
Yeah.
if it falls within that circle that we can drive to or whatever, and that's a pretty big circle. I mean, that gets me up to Chicago. So you can think how
Mm-hmm.
far it is from Kansas to Chicago. So, but it'll be interesting to see. We'll see how everything turns out for sure.
Honestly, and again, this is completely uninformed opinion, but I would think that the cross section of people that are interested in Games Workshop and people you might be able to get interested in CAV, there should be a slice there that's workable, I would think.
It is no part of it is it's working with the actual convention, getting your
Okay, I
foot in
see
the
what you mean.
door, getting table space, getting a booth that doesn't cost you a kidney. So
Yeah, there is
yeah,
that.
so that part of it is you know those type of when you get into dealing with the Adepticon shows and stuff like that, you are if you they are the only people that have any ability to get any pull at those shows are the Games Workshops and the
Yeah,
Wizard,
the
yeah,
big
the great
people.
big ones like that, because
Mhm.
they know, we need to write you a check for $50,000. Yeah, here you go, and we're ready to go. Now do this, do this, do this. I need you to jump. How high? How high?
For
And
$50,000?
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean,
So
you should come with
yeah, so
expectations.
things go like that. So you know, but especially when it comes with the booths and everything like that, I mean, we all put our pants on the same way, one leg at a time down the leg, and so if I paid for that booth space, I should be able to get a table, to be able to run games or something like that. So
Mhm.
ideally, and this is the place where I want to get to is I want to be able to come to an Adepticon or a show like that, set up our booth, be there to sell things, and then this guy and this guy or this guy shows up and they do their games. I'm not involved with them at all. They've designed their game. They've reserved space as a game master. They may get a hold of us that we'll give them some prizes or give them some stuff to help them out. That's the ideal situation that I need to get into. So that at that point, all we have to worry about is demo games, and as far as learn to play, not a demo game where you're actually sitting down and playing, a big 10 squad battle or something like that. But that way those guys handle the newer players or the people that already want to play, and that's I'm out of that picture. And those are the people that I've got to find more Hughes and his friends.
So let's here in the last few minutes of the show, let me ask a left turn question. Okay? If you could go back in time, let's not even put it that way. Could you, in your head, do you think you could make a CAV-like game that would play with a much smaller footprint so that it would fit the convention spaces better?
Well, it's not that part of it's not the deal. I mean, that's where the flip side of it is this game was designed for convention space. When you go to a convention and like that, if you can get the table, you're getting a 4 foot by 6 foot or 6 foot by 10 foot or a 6 foot by 8 table.
Mm-hmm.
The space is not the problem. It's just getting that space, getting that deal. So, when we played, set CAV up or designed this game or whatever, or games that we used to work on, we played with the bigger things and stuff like that. So it's the stores that have flipped. Now they're because of their footprint getting smaller, they want everything smaller. And that's the game companies over the last 10 years. They're designing for the stores. They're not designing for the conventions or your tabletop at home or anything like that. So would I do it different? No. I have no desire to play miniatures on a little square mat. That's just not my bailiwick, and doesn't appeal to me whatsoever. And if it doesn't appeal to me, I won't do it. So we had this conversation. I'm not in this to make $1 million. I'm in it to have fun, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and there's a new, and if that ends up being our death knell down the road, then that's what it is. Because new players are being conditioned to these small boards and space. They're not going out and seeing the big convention games like there used to be. I know that back when we went to Gen Con and then we started running games and everything like that, there was the object was to outdo each other. All the game masters showed up and had these gargantuan games and stuff and cool things and everything like that. And everybody was trying to outdo everybody, and they don't do that anymore. They show up and throw down a mat and a couple of hills and a couple of trees, and here we're playing our game. Yep. Well, I played that game last week at home, So I come to the show, I want something larger than life, and they just don't do that a lot anymore.
So the first Gen Con that I ever went into, I was wandering through the halls, and I stumbled into a room where people, and this is I don't know, like late 80s. I stumbled into a room where somebody had made a Star Destroyer that was made out of like a 4x8 sheet of plywood. I mean, it was literally the size. It would barely fit on a ping pong table.
Right.
And they had it stood up on a couple of, I don't know, I presume 2x4s or something. And then they had those telescoping, flight stands from the World War II and World War I historical guys and TIE fighters and everything. And so the Star Destroyer was a piece of terrain, and people were flying around it, blasting each other with these TIE fighters and X-Wings. And it blew me away because it practically filled the entire room.
Yeah. No,
that's what convinced me.
I've seen some great games, and they're just few and far between anymore out there. And I know I've talked about this before. CAV was originally, when I took CAV back over and had the intention when we very first started was going to do the plastic models, I wanted to do CAV as 15 millimeter. That was what I wanted to do. We ended up not going and doing 15 millimeter because the Chinese they could not take our files and go straight to mold. Like if you, in the United States, if I have a 3D file, I can take that down to a plastic manufacturer and say, listen, I need this put on mold. They will take that file, they will put it in their system, and they will make that mold to that file. Okay? Mm-hmm. The Chinese are just now kind of getting into that. Back in 2015 and everything, when we were very first starting with that, they didn't do that. If you sent them a file, they printed it out and then scanned it. Okay, so the expense of getting new masters and getting all that over there was self-defeating with what we were going to do. So we had all the original metal masters that's what we had to use. So we had to send those over there because those were going to be scanned, and they went from there. So the tech has come so far, the SLA printers now are just cheap and fast. Yes, but the problem, it's hard to be a miniatures company if you don't sell miniatures. So if down the road, if that ends up being the death knell for miniatures companies, then that's going to be the death knell. It's just, it may become more of a cottage industry where you have so-and-so make a set of rules and they put them out there, and so-and-so, you know, that you've seen with Patreon and some of the other people like that build files and stuff like that, or trade files, which is fine. I'm not saying I'm not against it or whatever like that, but you know, we've had this conversation a little bit with about some other companies and stuff like that. It's hard to be a miniatures company if you don't sell miniatures. And go ahead.
I just want to say I am as a big time, I buy stupid amounts of miniatures.
Yeah.
I don't want to print miniatures. I have no interest in learning how to 3D print. It doesn't fascinate me. I could care less. If there's an STL file I can't live without,
Right.
I'll pay somebody to print it.
Right.
It's not my cup of tea.
Well, and where the SLA guys are and in-house and doing things like that, I mean, it's obviously become bigger than what it was. Do I think it's reaching the point of in-house production? I do not. For that very reason, is that cost-wise, especially with plastic and our new system that we're bringing in with the dual cast and everything like that, I can print. I can do it in plastic cheaper than you can do it. The normal person can do it with resin printers, okay, with the time and the expense and everything like that. As long as we can keep our minis in the $5, $6, and $7 area, I think that's going to be keep us in the ball game. I think that if we were still fighting against $30 metal miniatures, I think we would be having a big problem right now. The companies like Games Workshop that want to sell you a plastic mini for $40, those are the guys that are going to be in trouble. So we'll see. We'll see how it works out. A lot can be said for, I mean, that right there, that's a 12-hour show that people can go back and forth with that. Yep. But that's absolutely my opinions on the deal. Like I said, it all comes down to the end of the day. We have the ability, or we're getting very close to the ability, that we will be able to produce our stuff in-house cheaper, faster, better than anything that we could 3D print right now. And we just go from there. So, because it all boils down to, it's hard to be a miniatures company if we don't sell miniatures. Just.
Yeah, I agree with Scud there at the end. He made the point about, everybody's into the hobby to get what they want out of the hobby, right? And so for me, I want to paint and play. Other people may love just collecting and printing and having the esoteric collection from heck. More power to you. Yeah. It's just not my cup of tea. Yeah. I'm not interested in 3D printing.
Oh, well, we've got piles of 3D printers here, and I bought 3D files. There's files that I go out that I think are cool and stuff like that. Because nobody's taking the time to put them out in miniatures or something like that. That for something unique or whatever like that. But I'm just too, I guess it's like me and books and PDFs. I'm just too old school. I want a book in my hand. I don't want to look at a PDF on a screen. So, and the tech is coming. I don't think that we're to the point yet where it's going to be quite what that's going to be. I still think we're probably 10 years away. So, but we'll see. I may be wrong. I've been wrong before. Yeah. Yeah, no, it'll come to the day where everybody will have a 3D printer in their deal, but they've got to make it idiot proof. So it, like you talk about the microwave, now if I can put a cup of water in the microwave and push it for 2 minutes, or a bag of popcorn, and hit the popcorn button, and 2 minutes later, I've got popcorn, it'll be good. And that's what they've got to, get to the minute I can go over and push a button on my machine and pick what I want and click it and then come back in an hour and there it is. No clean, no muss, no fuss, ready to go. So
to me, you'll know when that day is here when companies like Whirlpool are selling 3D printers.
Yeah. There are companies now that you buy a machine or something from them, that's if there's something that breaks on it, they send you a 3D file to have printed, rather than they don't keep the parts in stock for it. This is you print this part and put it in there. So we're already seeing some of that. All right. Well, we have managed to go 66 minutes tonight.
We have murdered an hour.
We have murdered an hour. So anyway, but folks, thanks for being here. Always, your support is much appreciated. I did talk to James a little bit. I am thinking of we need to tweak the show a little bit. We need to so if you've got some ideas, some things that you would think would work, that you see some other people do that thinks works better. I feel like that we're spending a lot of time talking about the same thing over and over and over. I know part of that too is we haven't had a lot of format, and part of that just because everything's been so busy, so crazy, and everything. It's funny that you should say that, New Way, because that's what I was talking to James, that maybe the Tuesday night show will become more to that direction. That'll be more game orientated. So, like I said, we're going to be thinking about that. That's kind of why I changed the Tuesday night to Tabletop Tuesday. Well, and we'll be introduced once, and that'll help too. Once we have new models and new product on a more regular basis. I mean, that's really what Wednesday night needs to be about. So we'll see what we can do. We're working on that, so kind of keep that all in mind. If you have some ideas that you want to drop on Discord or drop on Facebook or send me an email, things that you see, or send me a link to something that somebody else is doing that works out good so we can look at it and copy them. I'm all about copying something that already works. I don't need to reinvent the wheel. So anyway, well, James, it is time to say adieu.
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 2 dues.
Adieus.
3 dues.
Okay. Well, so we're out of here. Again, thanks for being here. And as always, we're around. So we'll see you later. May all your dice roll sixes. All right, good night, guys.